Hey guys, it's Toniko Pantoja, and today I'd like to talk about social media following and subscriber count. Does it actually work for your career within the industry? As someone who has a decent following in their social media, I do have a few things to say regarding this. We can all agree that there can be a value to a huge following and counts within social media. You know, the more you have an influence, the more you're heard and seen, maybe the more followers you have. We talk about influencers within our field and how they have a certain reach and community. Now, it's no surprise that influencers have used their following counts and reach as part of the negotiation for deals and collaboration. There are agents that specifically work with artists who want to improve their social media game and standing. A change that I've personally noticed when I started in the industry was through online applications. There's forms to fill out where to put your social media tag, Twitter, Instagram, and things like that. And of course, leads to the question, does a huge social media actually land you a job within studio work? Can it work to your benefit and can it work against you? Sometimes I tend to sit in one of the live chats in public Discord servers. One of the biggest reasons why I'm making this video was based on how younger and prospective artists worry about gaining followers. I would quietly sit in a public Discord server just to listen to artists talk to each other, with newer artists feeling anxious because they can't build followers fast. And most of these artists are exposed to art influencers who are popular online, who are already well known in what they do. Maybe they're recognized in their field too, but they also sell the image that popularity reaps success. What's crazy is that in the animation and arts industry, there's only a few people who have a ton or a lot of followers, and only a few of those few people actually have the skills and reputation within the industry. So what happens is that you get people trying to break into the practice only being exposed to these types of people, and you get the wrong idea that if you are popular, you will land a job within the industry. So here's the big question, does a huge following count get you hired? If we're just talking about subscribers and following count, absolutely not. Can it reap some amazing benefits and other opportunities down the road? Absolutely. Can it also attract the wrong clientele? Yes, and I have a ton of that. But first, I need to clear a bunch of things first. First of all, there's a huge difference between a huge following and popularity versus having a reputation within the industry. I'm pretty sure if I mention any other YouTuber names here, especially the ones that deal with art and animation, you will know who they are. I can even say names like Glenn Keane, James Baxter, and even Hayao Miyazaki, Craig Mullins, Alex Hirsch, and you will know them because they are popular and have a long-term industry experience. Now I can also say names like Rune Beneke, Chris Palmer, or Nelson Yokota, even John Puglisi. Individuals who are less known publicly but have a highly respectable reputation with the industry. Like, let's look at John Puglisi for example. This story artist has worked on almost every major feature animation production per year because he's fast, reliable, and good. And of course, there's newer artists who don't really have a following but are already making waves within the industry. And when I think about reputation within this case, they're professional, they're good at what they do, and again, they're reliable. Now that's something you have to acknowledge. Following and reputation are two separate things. You still need to have the skills to be able to do the specific job. Nowadays, artists in the industry are discovered through their online presence. Whether it's a small website, a social media account, or even a portfolio page, artists are offered work from their online space. There are those that have a huge following and count, but are not offered work because they don't have the experience or the skill set to do the job. You still have to build a portfolio or reel to show what you can do on the job. You can still have a great following, but still don't have the chops to do the work. Even though I'm active on social media and on the active space, I think the amount of offers I get hasn't really changed since I started in the industry and started my online presence. Next is that you're more likely scrutinized for opinions and statements via social media. And I've talked about this in the past. I'm pretty sure my opinions on social media in my past have affected certain relationships with studios, especially when it's opinions and statements about other animators or even about the industry. Most people like to see themselves as the main hero or the good guy in the story, so they feel a lot of their opinions and statements come from the right place. I've had people in the industry unfollow me because of my opinions and statements, and knowing how much there's emotional gossip within the animation industry, and that people within the industry talk to their coworkers about what one person said or what this person's doing, I can imagine a bridge being low-key burned. And because of that, my interaction with social media isn't as close-knit as I tend to. I don't really play around or have fun with it, because however you paint yourself online, people will take that for granted and will only see you that way. Another thing that sucks about having a following is that some people feel entitled to have your attention towards them, or they have ownership over you. You can't imagine how many people I get voicing their concerns about my work, for me going more into anime, or me looking into more modern styles, or even me looking into limited animation. I mean, I still get comments to these days around the lines of like, hey, I followed you because you do these types of things, but now you're not doing that and I'm disappointed. I've gotten that type of stuff. I have friends who work in Disney, and when they do certain things in social media, they get people following them saying, why would you do that? This is not the Disney way. You're a bad reputation of that company. I feel like sometimes I do have to low-key code switch because the work that I do for my job isn't the work that I would do independently. So I have a professional side and a side that doesn't concern the industry. Whether it's a studio, a follower, or heckler, there are those that want you to be locked down to a certain image. I personally say don't fall into that trap and treat your platform however you want. But just know that whatever you do, expect a certain reaction. Because I know that professionals within the industry, fellow artists, producers, showrunners, they do see my posts. And that can be quite a scary thing. So a huge following count also attracts unwanted clients. You know, being someone who both works in the industry and has their own independent ventures, it's no surprise that I get unwanted clients coming my way. I've had a lot of people ask me to animate their pilot for their brilliant show idea, and is needing an animator to do the whole episode all by themselves. Most of these people have never worked in animation, don't know how expensive animation can be, and underestimate the work that's needed for it, especially what they're asking from me and what they expect out of me. I also get people who put value into followers so much that a client with a larger following than mine uses it as a negotiation factor. Like one influencer wanted 50% cheaper because they could advertise my work and they'd offer exposure. And I'm like, nah, I already make a lot more working full-time in the industry where I do actually enjoy the work. And the second thing is, I'd rather do animation that I'm more passionate about. So if not studio work, what other great opportunities does a huge following count get you? If we're not talking about career related stuff or trying to find a way to break into the industry, that kind of talk, having a huge following is great for independent ventures. There's a reason why some artists have a huge following. It's up to them to figure out how they can monetize off of it or make it a brand. From my experience, I've gotten opportunities to guest speak due to my industry experience and educational content. I've gotten offers for sponsorships and collaboration. With my YouTube channel, I'm pretty sure that helped me get invited to guest talk at conferences, with some accommodating my trip if it's travel related. So hey, an excuse for me to travel. I do get sponsorship offers from other companies, let's say a graphics tablet, a hardware, a software, or even a service that's willing to pay for advertisement space. Sometimes these companies give me the product for free. You have no idea how many tablet or gadget review emails I get with them offering the hardware for free. Sometimes companies will commission you to make an ad for their product or whatever, and you can get commission out of that. Or here's an example. Let's say Squarespace reaches out to me to have 60 seconds of my video time to advertise their service. And I can make much more than YouTube's ad revenue. Another advantage that I have with decent following is that, let's say I want to take a break from work, but I decide to teach. Teach a live class, and people know my work, I have a decent following, so I'm bound to get students, and that's another source of income right there. Maybe if I'm popular because I made a character, or maybe a web series or an online cartoon, and I make merchandise out of that. If I have more followers, I'm bound to reap the benefits out of that. So I think it's great for independent business ventures. When you begin to gain followers, you have the power to form a community. I think community is way more powerful and important than being a leading influencer or having the most likes, follows, and subscribes. The type of content you make is bound to attract the type of people who have similar mindsets and goals. So because I talk a lot about personal projects, independent ventures, and animation, I get people who are on the same boat doing that kind of stuff too. Now, I could also be a super generic art YouTuber and I could attract a bigger community, but I only surround myself with the community that is healthy for me. So I personally don't think I have a massive following or community. I'm pretty sure I have a niche audience, and you know what? I prefer that. But you know what? A community can also mean a fan base. So let's say you create a franchise, a character, a world, or maybe your own series of stories. Maybe it's a persona, whatever. People follow you and suddenly you have your own community, your own fan base. You formed a brand that people like. So this could be useful for making merchandise and things like that. I've talked about this in the past. But coming back to the industry talk, can it get you a job? Well, let's say you decided to pitch a series or a movie, and let's say you've made an immensely popular and, critically acclaimed webcomic. You already have a big fan base about it, there's a huge following for it, people know you by name and they know your work. And knowing American studios want something that's commercially successful and already has an established community and fan base, you have a higher chance of making something like that happen and making producers see you as someone important. But honestly, that's beyond following count. So what advice do I have? I would say be careful about prioritizing followers, because you might end up catering to them and turning into a person that you're not really meant to be. Another thing is just to stay focused. So let's say if you just wanted to improve your draftsmanship or your artwork or your sensibilities, just focus on that. From my experience, most professionals don't really care about how many followers you have. All they just want to see is good work and that you can do the job. Now, if you're only looking for a way to get into the industry or get a job in the industry, you should look for people who are working in the industry and look at their work, look at their portfolio, take the whole following count outside of your criteria. Study them, see if your work can match up to theirs, and maybe reach out to them for feedback. Some will reply, some won't. Now, if you want to, gain followers, don't rush that process. That stuff comes over time. Now, I've talked about social media in the past, and I've had people come up to me and say that I just don't understand what it's like to have little followers. Look, I've been there. I've been posting stuff since my high school days, and it's only recently where I've just hit the 100K subscriber mark in most of my social media accounts. And even before I hit 100K, I was already working in the industry, working at studios with some of the best people. The following never came to me until I started releasing personal projects, until I started making tutorials because people liked what I had to say about that, and just my YouTube journaling. But that stuff is not what I do for work. I honestly wish there were more people who did YouTube and are also in the industry, besides me and a few other people. The only ones I can think of are like Ethan Becker, Michelle Lamb, Anya Butler, Laura Price. There's a bunch of others I'm missing out, forgive me about that. But I think the more people we have in that space, it just broadens the scope of the type of people that are in the industry, because I don't think it's fair that there's only a few of us that sort of like have a thing to say about the industry. We talk about the industry in our platforms, but we don't represent the sole face of the industry. And it's good to hear everyone's different stories. But yeah, I would say just focus on what you want to do, keep expressing yourself, and if you follow any social media influencer that talks a lot about popularity and the importance of like having a lot of followers, I would say be careful, because it's not something that everyone can achieve. You don't really need it if you just want to work in the industry. Just have a good, decent portfolio. If you just want to build a higher following, I do have some thoughts on that, but I'm not going to talk about it in this video. Anyways, that's all. Bye. Interested in learning hand-drawn animation or learning how to finish an animated shot from beginning to end? Have a look at the store where you'll find the complete Introduction to 2D Animation video course, tutorials, and other resources. Learn classical animation approaches, drawing, lectures, techniques, and other process videos. Visit the store through the link in the description below.